When asked what does the name of the game S.O.R.N stand for, the developer response was two simple words: I forgot. On the other hand, what I do know for certain is that this is a short 1-hour experience that released from Sentinel Games April 30th of 2026 for free. And if you know me, I can never turn down a free mech game. So it seems to be relatively inspired by the Armored Core series and features 15 parts for mech customization, along with fast-paced gliding battles, 3 missions with voiced cinematics, and 6 different weapons as you play through fast-paced gliding battles against an enemy made up of other robots. So, is S.O.R.N worth your time? Let's find out. But first, let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Empty. I like games about giant robots and have decided it's my mission to play and catalog every single mech game ever here on this YouTube channel. If you'd like to keep up with me, feel free to hit the sub button. Thanks. My cat is like freaking out in the background. I don't know if the mic picked that up. Hey, stop. Get away from my Gundams. Plot-wise, each of the main 3 missions do have their own fully voiced cinematics. There is additional voice communications throughout the gameplay of the missions as well. The story itself, it feels like you've been dropped into maybe the latter half of a larger sequence of events. Things are a little bit confusing and seem to lack context, as this appears to be more vignette of sorts. And things aren't helped along by the fact that the characters have an approach I'd only describe as anime cool guy, in which case they like to keep information from each other.
Grover and I will wait outside in case anything comes up.
Anyways, first mission starts as a ship drops our player character, J-12, by the wall into some sort of base area. We're told our mission is to get inside and reboot a security system that had been sabotaged by an organization named Nighthawk. The woman named Ina also chats with an old southern man named Grover on the comms about a new weapon Haven is producing. Some of the dialogue here lets us know that Grover is Ina's grandpa, and he's also the one who made all the defense systems at the location we're at, like the big one that's charging up to shoot us down. An evasive maneuver happens in the ship and J-12 falls from the sky. As we manage to battle our way into the facility, Ina keeps up the chatter on the radio. We learn Nighthawk is an independent organization created to destroy Haven. We call them terrorists and explain vaguely something happened 6 months ago that really cut down their membership count. When asked why they want to blow us up, J-12 knows, but only responds with anime cool guy phrase, "I can't tell you."
I've been expecting you, J-12.
God damn it. Who's that?
Do you know how long it's been? 13 years since you stole my pride, my dignity.
At the end of this mission, we do get a boss fight against a man named Neil. Turns out this guy is actually on our team, but holds a grudge against J-12 because we apparently saved the day before he did 13 years ago? It's damaged his pride so much, he now believes we are a traitor and we fight. He runs away before we get the option to blow him up, babbling about protecting the super weapon. Also, turns out he's right about us being a traitor, as we're prompted to make the facility self-destruct right under the nose of our teammates. We blame it on Neil and run for safety. Second mission takes place in a decommissioned Haven laboratory. The crew is pretty quiet as we blast our way through empty corridors of security turrets. Finally, we make it to a circular room fitting for a boss battle and encounter another mech, Q-14.
What are you talking about?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
He says it's the end times and recalls S.O.R.N, something about J-12 having a plan to kill a stupid whale that seemingly backfired and caused a mass casualty event of our own soldiers. Turns out this whale is the new super weapon that keeps getting brought up. The dialogue is a little confusing here in regards to who's who, but I think Q14 was supposed to be one of those lost soldiers. Except in his case, instead of dying, he was captured and experimented on by Haven. He also lets us know that the super weapon isn't out of commission like we had thought, but production sped up and now it's ready. He takes out his frustration on J12.
We're about 10 minutes out from where that thing should be. I know this is a bad time to ask, but I was so panicked in the moment, and I heard what you were talking about in the lab. Is it true?
After making promises with a defeated Q14, we head off to take out the super weapon. On the way there, we admit to Ina that we are secretly a Nighthawk agent. Turns out the super weapon isn't for any sort of defensive purpose, but is a supervillain plot to destroy all life on the planet to create a blank slate for the Haven organization. Okay, so we get airdropped onto giant dock platforms in the middle of the ocean. We blast our way through the units that are there until the boss fight, which is the super weapon itself, and this thing actually is a whale. A whale that's been upgraded to have a giant crystal in its mouth for making crazy lasers. We do end up jumping into its mouth, slashing the crystal power source with our laser sword until it's defeated. A short cinematic plays where Ina and Grover return to pick us up and our mech blasts up through the whale's blowhole. Credits roll. Story-wise, it's okay. I think it was rather complicated for something this short. We learn about several factions, historical events leading up to now, and the characters, but the screen time isn't really long enough for me to really build out what's going on without scrutiny. That, along with the tropey character dialogue, dropped my interest a bit. I get S.O.R.N is a pretty small game, and I do really appreciate what Sentinel Games is doing here, but, you know, sometimes less is more. Gameplay-wise, as stated before, we've got 3 campaign missions: the wall, the lab, and the rig. There's also a side mission unrelated to the plot named Excavation Site. The wall and the lab missions are mostly corridors through sci-fi techie facilities, and the rig is a big network of docks. And the excavation site is a much more open plain of mining quarry. Each of these story missions end with a boss fight and a reward of gears and crystals. The gears also drop from all enemies, while the crystals are collected from crystals. These are our shop currencies for buying new items. There are 3 mech setups made up of the torso, arms, and legs, along with 6 different weapons to choose from. We start with the proto suit, which is the all-rounder. The spider mech, or the quad as it's called in this game, is the speedy suit, and the tank set is called the tread. The suits all have their own stats. Weapon-wise, we've got a minigun, a railgun, a laser, a cannon, a charge pistol, and a shotgun. You only have to get these once, and then you can dual wield, which is cool. You don't have to buy the same weapon twice for each hand. Oh, and there's also unchangeable melee sword attacks for both hands, and then 1 extra shoulder-mounted missile attack as well. The actual game feel while playing is pretty okay. While you can still feel a little bit of jank, it's definitely formidable for a free, super indie project like this. When I used the quad mech, I did feel really floaty and slippery, although that is the one that I like using the most. Mostly while playing the game, you'll dodge around, locking onto enemies and shooting until their health bar reaches 0. When yours starts to get low, you do get a set of 3 heals, that is, until you reach a health station to recharge them. On the other hand, there does not seem to be any sort of ammo limits, however. In the case of enemy variety, it's pretty good. You got weak little flying drones, you got turrets, there's these like shieldy, eggy boys that have powerful lasers whenever they drop their defenses, which is also when you can attack them. There are some more humanoid mechs that gas up a room with toxic pink fumes, there's tanks, and then of course there's the boss fights. I do kind of wish that the boss fights had more specialized mechanics and attack patterns. I think the only one that really felt unique in that aspect was the big whale, I guess. The first boss was really cheesed with melee attacks, second boss was more like a chase, and the third, being the whale, was much more of a spectacle. I really liked how the whole platform rolled around in the waves. Visually, I think is the high point of the game for me. While yes, certain elements like the UI do look very basic, the general visual style was pretty cool, and I thought it felt unique. The starting mech looks very defining and special. Kind of reminds me of a Muppet. The environment themselves seem to have interesting textures going on, and things simultaneously appeared rounded and smooth, but also there seemed to be some sort of shading filter, I guess, that produces a gritty, dithering effect, and then like a slight comic booky, cel-shaded look at the same time too. I find this very appealing, as it adds a lot of character to what would probably be more boring, plain, low-poly assets. The skybox on the last stage also especially looked cool, with the clouds forming so quickly.
Gotten into you.
Sound-wise, the game's pretty okay. The general sounds of beeps, boops, and shooting is classic. The soundtrack is acceptable. Unfortunately, I think if there is one thing about the sound that is memorable, it's going to be how amateur the voice work sounds. Some might find this compelling or campy or like it for being genuine, while others will find this to be grating like nails on a chalkboard. I think it's okay for what it is. Granted, this is a little tiny indie project, but it is extremely obvious Grover isn't actually a grandpa from the Deep South. In the same way, a lot of the vocal inflection comes across as very stereotypically anime sounding, which I'm not exactly a fan of, personally. Thankfully, the dialogue sequences weren't interlaid with anime's favorite random grunts and groans to cut out the silence. This one did not give me any technical problems, so I guess let's recap some negatives that were in their own categories. The story is hard to follow and not that fleshed out. Mostly, I think, because the game is very short. The voice acting is subpar, the gameplay has got just enough jank to it that you can feel it. Something that I didn't mention before is that while a little bit of build diversity is possible, of course, the game isn't built in a way to really showcase that in any aspect. I get the feeling any combination could play the game as easily as the next, which is nice, that things remain viable, but the other side of that is that it doesn't really showcase or give you any reason really to play with different customizability systems, rather than just picking your favorite weapon. Another thing to note is that this one was full of spelling errors. I think each time I pull up some of my gameplay while writing out this review, I notice even more of them. It's not the end of the world, but this is definitely something that is noticeable in an end product. Final thoughts. This one's actually pretty decent. It's free, so there really isn't any barrier of entry here. You can just pull it up and play it, and for me, it hits on several of the notes that make me enjoy mech games, albeit I do wish there was more. I think it has unique and fun mech designs. I appreciate the devs for trying so hard for a cinematic experience with cutscenes and voice work, even if they do fall short. I think there's a great groundwork present in this simple 1 hour long game, and I really hope the folks over at Sentinel Games stick to this concept and are able to make something grander, something fully realized, as I can really tell just from S.O.R.N that we need to let them cook.